For more on this and the economy, let's speak to the economic advisor at the office of the Vice President, Dr. Sharif Mahmood Khalid. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Right. Arguably, it hasn't been an easy one getting organized labor to agree to a 10% raise. Sure. What did it take for government to achieve this?
I mean, key negotiation, engaging the real stakeholders, and as you could see, you saw the minister flanked by the finance minister, among others. So it tells you the kind of energies and synergies that have been connected over time. Labor unions have been engaged. So it's more of a stakeholder consultation and agreements that have culminated in the 10% raise in salaries. Or wages.
Right.
Yeah.
So the argument is that a 10% increment is not significant enough considering the cost of living now. What other measures is government going to do to cushion the Ghanaian worker?
Well, I thought you were going to say it's rather even very significant given some arguments about inflationary issues among others. I mean, historically, if you could look back at what happened a few years ago as far as the last pay rise was affected. I think that was about 23% or 20+%. And that was in a period of an overheated economy. I mean, since taking office, there are spikes of the economy cooling off to allow for a reset. But what has been happening is that if you look at 10%, it tells you it's a prudent government. We have a fund program that we are managing. So you don't need to jump the gun to do this. And the acceptance of labor unions to this 10% rise tells you the sort of embrace they've given it. So this is a prudent step by the president and his team of ministers that are relevant to this cause, i.e. the finance minister, the employment or labor relations minister, among other key stakeholders that have come together to see this. But you realize that several steps have been taken. As I was said, it's being coordinated, and that reflects a certain confidence in the economy. If you look at even the vetting of the finance minister, he started indicating of how the government is committed to servicing the domestic debt exchange programs or bondholders or redeeming all of these. So these were all aimed at actually, you told the president's tone, without blaming any previous governments, they never dropped the ball actually in focusing on trying to actually have a robust economy. The commitment to payment of this has also been an indication. So they have been, ducks in a row in a run-up to the labor negotiations that culminated in the 10% raise. And you'd see that has actually been embraced by all. So it's actually a prudent measure, if you ask me, because you come into an overheated economy that you've inherited. You just don't jump to have 30% rise or a 50% rise in all of this. But significantly, if you run the figures, for example, the last increment, ballpark, I mean, the official figures are yet to come out. Ballpark, we're talking about the 20+%, and that was a reflection of about 20+ billion Ghana cedis, right, in the wage bill of government. Playing with that figure, if you crunch the numbers, we're talking probably ballpark again, the official figures would be out. We're talking about an increase of about 2+ billion. That's the 10% rise into government wage bill. So it tells you the sort of prudent measures that are going in place. I mean, this is to increase purchasing power, right, in an inherited, overheated economy that we are trying as a government to cool off. Right. So what happens is that after 6 months or a year or a bit of time that's considered considerable, it's going to be reviewed, as it will be done in any government that is prudent at actually embracing. And we're on the reset button. Our feet is on the paddle, and you could see all of this happening. Right.
Let's talk about the payment to the domestic bondholders. How important was it for government to do this?
It is very important. You see, I often get this question of, I mean, it's a contract. You ought to oblige. It was a contract, but it got broken. And that's why we are here today and servicing that. So the ability for any government to service that or to embrace or commit to servicing that domestic debt exchange program ought to be commended. And what it does is that it injects investor confidence. Right. So I was just from a program with the GIPC boss, and we're talking about reinvesting in Ghana again and having that confidence. And that's exactly what the president and his team is doing. Right. We're doing that without blame. We're doing that without pointing fingers. And I thought that we're bringing every Ghanaian from every nook and cranny onto the table to see how we can have a stable economy and have a robust economy where every Ghanaian matters and would be a part of resetting the agenda for a robust economy and a successful society for all.
Right. The MPP, however, argue that the payments flow naturally from plans that they had put in place to honor payments to bondholders. What do you say about that?
Well, the point is, we just have to have a historical antecedent. who is the brainchild of the sinking fund, which we are referring today? How much of money have they contributed to that pot? Very insignificant, very minute, very infinitesimal. But today, we are referring to the sinking fund as an insurance measure, right? Where we are using that to service bonds, either in kind or in cash, right? So this is the real use of the sinking fund in action. And thanks to the Tekpe-led economic team that did that. And it was under President Mahama that happened. So if the sinking fund was not there today, where would we be? So, I mean, as I said, we are not pointing blames or every Ghanaian knows where we are as an economy and where this stems from. It's from the borrowing spree, among other issues. But we are focused. We don't want to drop the ball. We are here to serve Ghanaians. We're here to reset. And we're bringing every Ghanaian to the table.
All right.
Not to point fingers. So watch what we're doing carefully. And that's what means a lot
definitely
to the and we need your support. Yeah.
You definitely will have it. So on the cost of living, fuel prices, they have been rising in the past pricing windows. What is happening and what is government's plans to tame the increments? And then maybe you can touch on the fate of the gold for oil policy.
Yeah, I mean, we just came to that. We're not saying that, okay, let's go for gold for oil. I mean, it's an initiative that has happened, but we also the important role, or we see the important role gold plays in an economy as far as currency stability is concerned. More so in emerging markets where Forex is a big issue. And you could see that one of the quickest things this government did in its early days. When I'm speaking, I'm always cognizant of the fact that, let's say this is a 1 month old government.
Yes.
And in all of what it has done, the creation of the gold board, right, is a big thing, right? That alone in and of itself is attracting investor confidence as well, because they know what the gold board is going to do as far as Forex issues are concerned. So all of these issues you're talking about as far as price mechanisms are concerned are controlled by Forex. And we all know how the dollar is king within our economy. But if we have the strength of the gold, which is going to be a back-end measure to our currency issues, you'd see that it's going to go a long way to have stability issues, to help with inflationary issues. Once Forex is tamed, a lot of other issues are tamed. And we keep having it fluctuate every now and again, or flashing at us every now and again, which does not really allow for prudent or long-term economic planning measures as far as both private and public sector economic issues are concerned. And that's exactly what we're doing with the gold board. So for a 1 month old government to put all of this together, mind you, in the first week of March, the economic forum is coming off, right? Which again is another prudent measure to call people into the room to see how we can all have a collective, contribution to resetting the economy and to putting it in greater heights and having it very stable for people like, you and I.
Right.
To have a good life.
Let's pause the interview here.